The behavior section of Google Analytics is about how users interact with your website. We can use these reports to pick out the most popular content and pages on your site and get a better understanding of how users are navigating between your pages. Let's begin by looking at the Overview report. And this can be found in the Behavior category and is the first report that you get to. At the top is the graph again, and this time it's showing us page views over the selected time period. We can change that metric if we want, or add in a comparison metric. Below the graph is some high-level data about our site. We see the page views, which is more than sessions or visitors because one person could visit multiple pages. Next to that is unique page views, and this won't count pages twice in the same session. So if a user visits your homepage and then moves on to a second page and then comes back to your homepage will only be counted once in that session. Next to that is average time on each page of our site, followed by exit percentage. And this shows how engaged our visitors are with our content. We want higher time on page and low exit percentage. Exit percentage is the number of exits divided by the number of page views. Let's scroll down to the table below. Here we see a list of all our pages that have been viewed, along with how many times they have been viewed, and also the percentage viewed versus other pages on my site. As I mentioned earlier, the / indicates the homepage, and that's been viewed the most. But interestingly enough, one of our products has the second most page views. We can view this a different way too. If we change the site content to page title, it might make things a bit easier to read. It will give us the actual page title as it corresponds to your site. If you ever run into a page that says not set, well, that means that you have not set a page title. And I would highly recommend that you do this for SEO purposes. Every page should have a title. Let's move on. And from the left, let's select the Behavior Flow report. And what I'll do is close the menu so we can gain some real estate on this page. The Behavior Flow lets you see the path visitors take on your site, from where they enter to every page they visit until they exit the website. This helps us identify problems or content that's working and understand what areas of the site are not getting as much exposure as we would want. You might find that people are not getting to your contact page after viewing your landing page. Well, we can look at that right here. If I hover over starting page, I see that of the 437 sessions that hit the home page, most of them dropped off. In fact, 362 of them dropped off. But 75 moved on to various areas of the site. 9 of them went to the contact page. Now, say we wanted to affect how viewers are moving through the site. If we wanted more people to go from the home page to the contact page, we could make the contact button much more prominent on the page. Or, say we wanted to direct people towards our services, we could make that more apparent as well. Get it? And I should mention, in case it's not overly apparent, the red denotes a drop-off. It means someone has left the site. You can also click into any of these sections to highlight the traffic flow, which is a pretty good way to look at things because it fades out all other paths that do not contain, the page that we've selected. We can also explore traffic, and this zooms in on the contact page. We can see where the traffic to the contact page is coming from. That's step 1. Then the contact page is step 2. And then where visitors go after the contact page, if at all. And in this case, they go to the About page or drop off. We can go back to the behavior flow by selecting it in the top left-hand corner. Another thing we can do, like other reports, is bring in other dimensions. For instance, I can choose country from the drop-down, and now another column for country has been added that shows the country where traffic originated from, and then what that behavior flow looks like. We could also select the gearbox next to country, and what this allows us to do is customize the dimension. For example, if I wanted to only see traffic from the US, I could choose Add an Item, then equals, then United States, and hit apply. And now I only see data from the US. I could also add up to 5 different match types. So, say I wanted to see data from the United States and Russia. Well, I could add in Russia as another match type. There's no need for a and or an or statement in this one. This adds the match types together. By honing in on one page specifically, you can analyze how effective that page is as a landing page. Is it retaining traffic and then routing that traffic to the appropriate page? Is it helping your visitors down the path towards a conversion? Well, no, because we would see that visitors are continuing through the page. If you're getting a ton of drop-offs on your landing page, you'll know, so you can change the content to be more relevant for your visitors. The next thing I want to discuss is the site content reports. And these are a group of 4 reports that help you understand how your content is being interacted with, how your pages are viewed, etc. To get there, find the Site Content group under Behavior, and we'll look at the All Pages report first. The All Pages report gives you a quick overview of your top content, your page views, bounce rate, and entrances, etc. I want to point out that on the far right-hand side, there is a column for page value. And what this does, once configured, is total up all transactions that occurred from this page and any value that you attribute to goals and divides it by unique page views for this page. So this can give you the financial impact that a particular page has. And this is helpful because it allows you to understand which sections of your site are producing and which sections you may want to improve. You can interact with this report just like you can with most other reports on the site. The next report below all pages is Content Drill Down. And this is a really cool report because what it does is it groups your pages together into sections of your site. Why this might be important is more than likely certain areas of your site are responsible for more traffic and conversions than others. For instance, say you have a blog. Well, the individual blog posts may not account for a large percentage of your traffic, but combined, they do. So you could say the blog is a very important factor in how your site generates traffic. The Content Drill Down report allows you to see the blog as a whole. On my site, the number 1 group, it's actually the folder icon, is the product group. And this accounts for about 13% of my traffic and is second only to the homepage. To view this report in the most organized way, you need to make sure that your site is organized very well with its subdirectories. The table view that we're looking at shows my list of directories. The root level is just the homepage. And as I said, the product section has the second most page views, and we can open it up to see each page that it contains. And from here, we can see the page views, bounce rate, etc. If we go back, another thing we can do is select the pie chart view, which can help us visually understand the breakdown of each section, how it compares to the overall site. The next thing I want to look at is the landing pages report, which is beneath Content Drill Down. This is going to list all of the pages that visitors on your site entered from. You can use this report to understand how each of these pages are performing based on bounce rate. Look for high bounce rates to identify which pages may need a redesign. Next, I want to look at in this video is the Exit Pages report. Here we can see which pages on our site were the last pages viewed before the user left. If there are pages in this report with a high exit rate that are functioning as landing pages, you'll need to modify the pages. It's not an issue if certain pages have a high exit rate. For instance, your contact page may have a high exit rate, and that's okay if you're driving certain audience members to that page. From there, you can track if they are actually contacting your business, either by tracking a form that's been filled out or a phone call. The last thing I want to discuss in this video is site speed reports. Let's choose the overview report first. These reports measure the load time or latency for your web pages. The chart at the top will show us average load time overall for our site. The thing to look at here is if there are any anomalies, like big spikes similar to what's happening here in July. and also what the graph is looking like over time. What we want is site load time to be as fast as possible, which would mean a lower number on the graph. In the top right corner, there's a little box of squares. And what this does is allows us to adjust the precision of the data. Higher precision means slower processing, and the reverse is true as well. More precision means that Google will use more data to create the report. By scrolling down, we can see our average load time, which is 3.4 seconds, and other things, including our server response time. Some of this is pretty developer-centric and maybe not too useful for you, but looking at page load times and download times is a very good idea, along with the server response time. Below that, we can see the average load time for each browser, and we'd want to see if there are any differences between them. In my case, Firefox and Internet Explorer are pretty slow comparatively, and that's something we might want to look into if we're getting a high volume of traffic from either one of those sources. Then we can view this report by country or page, and these are great, but this is still just an overview report. We can use other reports to get into this data just a bit more. One thing to mention, here is another reason why you should be using annotations on analytics. If you see a spike in load times, you can check to see if you deployed anything that day or week. Let's take a look at the page timings report, which is under Overview. This report allows us to look at this data by page. And if I scroll down, you can see the page views and then a comparison chart that shows how each individual page compares to the site average. Faster load times against the average would be green, and slower would be red. For some reason, one of my product pages is loading much slower than the site average, and I should look into that. We can also show the data view by selecting the left icon in the right-hand corner of the table. And now we can sort by load times and bring in secondary dimensions like country or mobile devices. Another thing we can do is go back to the top and choose Map Overlay. And now we can get a visual of the load times in different countries. If we're getting significant traffic from a country that has pretty high load times, we may consider deploying a content delivery network or add in some servers closer to that country. Next, let's look at the Speed Suggestions report. And this is cool. If we scroll down to the bottom, Google on the far right column gives each one of our pages a score. Based on 100, the higher the score, the more potential speed your page is achieving. We should take a look at any page that's performing below, say, 80%. And Google is super helpful because it offers suggestions on how to fix our page speed. You find this by clicking on Page Speed Suggestions. And this opens up a window in which Google is analyzing our page and then gives us fix suggestions. One thing you can't really do on this report is sort it in any meaningful way. To navigate it to look at more pages, you have to use the arrows down the bottom. And then with the arrows, you can scroll left or right. The last report we're going to look at is user timings. This allows you to measure how fast specific elements on your page load and determine whether it impacts the user experience. To do that, though, you need to add some custom code into your site, which is beyond the scope of this course, but I just wanted to make sure you know what it is in case you'd like to explore it further. Speed is a factor on how likely users will remain on your site, and it will also contribute to better SEO.